Season 9 is here then, and we say goodbye to a very long-standing player. Linus Valkvist, at 34 years of age now, has been released from his contract. It expired, and we did not renew it, which might be a bad thing, because he's still been playing consistently for us over the last few seasons. I think maybe at the end of this season, or possibly even the season before, he was supposed to leave, and I extended his contract, gave him a new deal, things like that, and he's just kept getting game time, but Linus Valkvist has now left, because basically he is 34, and I can't bring myself to give a new contract to a 34-year-old. I'm sorry. And that is all that has happened so far on the 1st of July. Obviously, last season we won the Ekstraklasa, we won the Polish FA Cup, but we did not win the Polish Super Cup, and we got knocked out in the Champions League, and then the Europa League as well. We got knocked out by Spurs, so I'm hoping for a much better performance in Europe. That's what I want to do. I want to get to the Champions League proper, and maybe get out the group stage. But realistically, we don't think it's going to happen, do we? Last season, we had to say goodbye to Krzysztof Mucha from our starting 11, and this season, we have to say goodbye to Mateusz Wolski, who is now 22. So, if you missed last episode, basically, if a player is over the age of 21, so if they are 22 years of age at the start of the season, I cannot lock them in to a starting 11 position. It doesn't mean they can't play, it just means they don't count to my 5 players that I have to lock into the squad. Wolski, unfortunately, is one of them. And possibly a bigger hit is Piotr Goralski, who has been amazing since he turned 16. Basically, the first season he came through, I believe he was the player that we locked in Season 2, technically. Goralski has just been amazing for us, and we are going to have to make sure that we leave the attack midfield position available, because Goralski should be playing there, and that's his only real good position. So we need to make sure we leave that empty, which kind of might put us in a bit of a sticky situation when it comes to actually picking our starting 5 players that we are locking in for the season. But we don't have to do that just yet. Just a reminder, this is what we had locked in last year, but we're going to have to remove Goralski. We're going to have to remove Wolski as well. So we've got Zach, Jasinski and Kmishik from last year who are still eligible. Does not mean we're going to keep with those 3 players though. We're going to jump forward to the end of September, where we have a transfer budget, by the way, £47.3 million, a wage budget of £779,000, which we are not going to spend. We're going to jump forward to September and see what business has been done. 5 players have left the club on permanent deals, and 2 players have joined the club. Christian Tupai is the first one to leave. He wasn't any good. He played once and scored twice, I believe, in a cup game, if I'm not mistaken. He's gone for £7,000. We've also sold Gregor's Shoinaki, might be his name. He just wasn't good enough to play, and obviously Goralski plays in that position, so we've sold him on in the hope that another club can possibly make some money out of him, turn him into a half-decent player. Mark Idris has also left the club, obviously did not come through our youth intakes. We signed him from Dam a very long time ago. He's been sold to Widzu for £250,000. Sebastian Wilk has also left the club. Now, this one might be a stupid thing to do. He did have a couple of seasons in the starting 11. One really bad one, one really good one, but he has moved over to Gornik for £275,000. And it didn't last very long, did it? Nicola Cipriani has already left the club. We signed him from Bayern Munich for peanuts for £245,000. We sold him for £2.4 million, and I think there is a nice big sell-on as well in that one. So Cipriani had one good year, and he is off. But we brought in 2 new players. We spent £1.6 million on a defence midfielder because we are looking extremely weak in that defence midfield role. So Ahmed Laraki is a 20-year-old Moroccan international signed from Feyenoord. He's played a couple of times as well off the bench. He's also part Dutch, so that is also quite helpful for us. I believe that's helpful, although because we're in Poland, I don't think it matters if they're African or not, doesn't it? So yeah, Laraki is in, but we've also got somebody returning to the club. And I did kind of tease it last episode. Gregor Baniak is he's back. His contract at Napoli expired. We have picked him up on a free transfer. He was not the only player whose contract expired, by the way. Kostrobala's contract expired. But if we go back and find him, where is Kostrobala? It's probably easy to write his name in, isn't it? There he is, Kostrobala. He's gone to Minnesota. So he went to Bayern Munich for £4.5 million with a nice chunky sell-on. His contract expired. He moved over to Minnesota on a free transfer. We did try and get him back, by the way. It wasn't just me ignoring him. We did try and get him back, but he went, you know what, guys? I'm going to go off to America and have fun over there, which is fair enough. We've also got a bunch of players going out on loan. No one really that important. Marius Stepien, I believe I mentioned last season in the last episode, that he needs to get some first-team football, so going out on loan to Slask in the Ekstraklasa could be very helpful for him as well. We've got Saigan going to Gornik, also in the Ekstraklasa. He's pretty good, but he's now 21, so we're never going to be able to lock him in. Anyway, Kolodziej, another player who's just unfortunate that he plays in the positions that we've got other players who are better than him at, so he's not getting any game time. So yeah, we've kind of just loaned out a whole bunch of players as well. I think we are in for an interesting season, and that is because we've locked in 2 new players in defence. And it might be a terrible thing to do, but we've gone for it. Jan Kamishik is the first player that we are locking in. Obviously, still eligible to be locked in, but this is his last opportunity to do so. He's played 8 times, scored 11 goals so far this season. I'm sticking with my guns, and Piotr Jasinski is going to be playing on that right-hand side for a second season. He is wanted by big boys. So maybe, just maybe, just theorising here, he might be good. There might be something about Jasinski, so let's play him for another season. Radoslav Zak as well will keep his place. He's turning into a ridiculously good footballer. Realistically, he's our best player right now. 3.5-star current ability. Radoslav Zak, very, very good footballer. And now the 2 new faces. We have Marcel Andrusko, the older of the 2 Andruskos, because we've got another one who I believe is just turned 17. Maybe he's still 16 at the moment. But yeah, Marcel Andrusko will be our right back for the season because we've lost Valkvist. And in defence will be Tomas Matajuk, a player who came through our youth intake last season, and I said I think he's going to be very good, so we're going to put a little bit of money behind that and give him a full season in defence. Obviously, if we have a look, we got quite a few decent centre-backs. Palzewski, Winther and Wolski, all very good centre-backs, so we are kind of taking a big risk by playing Matajuk there. If he turns into a good footballer, it's not going to be as big a risk as it looks like right now, but it is obviously a massive risk. If he's bad, we might not win the league. We might not even get into Europe if he's really bad. Especially when you pair him up with Andrusko on the right-hand side. This could be a big problem. So far, the season has started off pretty badly. We have won the Polish Super Cup. We have managed to get into the Champions League, although I think, if I'm not mistaken, we just got in there without qualifying for anything because we won the league. So yeah, you know what? We're in the Champions League because we were good last year. And the Ekstraklasa, we are 5th. We've won 4. We've not lost. Okay, that's a key part here. We've won 4, beating Mota 7-0, Arka 6-1, Cracovia and Zaglebe, beating them both 3-1. But 3 draws as well. Widzew, Lodz and Legia. And then no defeats. So it's good-ish start. Some of these draws should have been wins, and then this would look a lot nicer. So it's not the end of the world, but it hasn't started amazingly well. So let's hope that we can turn things around. So we're going to jump forward now to our penultimate ever youth intake in this save. Our Season 9 youth intake. Will we get another golden generation from Patrick Kluivert, or will we actually get just a bunch of junk once again? I say once again like we've had really bad youth intakes. We've had good youth intakes most seasons. In Patrick we trust. Maybe we put a bit too much trust in Patrick there. He's kind of done pretty badly. It's not awful by any means. It's not awful. We've only got 1, 2, 3, 4 players that I have earmarked as possible good players, and one of them has been flagged because he's a goalkeeper. We've got Amar Masson, who is not Polish, which I think is our first non-Polish player that we've starred, and he is a Belgian central midfielder. He doesn't look amazing, but I'm kind of bringing him in because I want to retrain him as a defence midfielder, and he's Belgian because, you know, we've not had anyone who isn't Polish come through yet. We've also got a striker in the shape of Sebastian Azikiewicz, could be his name. He is a 5'11" striker, but he's very good in the air. 16 heading. He's got 11 jumping reach, which could get better. 4-star potential ability. I think this guy could be alright. The goalkeeper that I don't have a huge amount of faith in is Kamil Gadja. He's okay. He is only 15. He's got some reasonable numbers. Going by shape, it's not awful, but also it's not great, is it? He's got some pretty bad goalkeeping kind of technical numbers. Mentally as well. Got some reasonable numbers. 16 determination. It's good physically. Actually looks very good physically. Still only 15. Plenty of time to develop. But we've also got a couple of other decent goalkeepers who are way ahead of him anyway. Like this guy. And arguably he's not way ahead of him. We've got Paweł Michalski. Michalski? Paweł Michalski. That's his name. 15 years of age. Once again, I think he's a much better goalkeeper. Still don't think he's a much better footballer. We can actually do a comparison with Gadja and see that they are probably quite similar. In fact, Gadja is better physically. They're on par mentally. And when it comes to technically, it is Paweł just about. So we've got 2 below average goalkeepers that might make it good. So yeah, maybe Patrick Kluivert is a bit of a hit and miss head of youth development. He did very good last season. This season, not so good. But it's fine because he did so well last year. I'm kind of okay with it. Also, luckily for us, we have turned things around in the Ekstraklasa. We are now top of the table. 2 defeats is all we've got to our name, 4 draws and 20 wins in 26 appearances. You can see there, Jan Kamishik has scored 31 goals. He's just turned 22. He scored 31 goals in 23 league games. He's an absolute monster. So we are top of the table, which is good. In the Champions League, we've been knocked out in the league phase, which is not good. Wins against CFR Cluj and Ajax, a draw against Fenerbahce, and 5 defeats against arguably 5 teams that we should probably lose against. Maybe we should be good enough to beat Galatasaray, but other than that, I would expect to lose the other games. And we are still in the Polish FA Cup because we win this most seasons. Season 9 is going to be, what is that, 7? If we win it in Season 9, that'll be 7 wins out of 9, which obviously is very, very good. So that's quite nice to see. That's going to be it then, until we jump forward to the end of the season. Hopefully we can keep things on track, win the league once again, which would be our 2nd in a row. It'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of... We've got 5 out of 8 so far. So 6 out of 9 would be quite good. 2/3, we win 2/3 of the leagues. That would be nice. Well, first of all, that's not good. That is not good reading. Losing in the semi-final of the FA Cup 4-1 as well against Rakow. That is not good reading. However, what is good reading is we did win the league. Since the last time we checked in, we've lost no more matches. We have drawn 1 more game, but then we've won another 7, I believe. So we are champions of Poland for a 2nd season in a row. 6 times out of 9 we have been crowned champions of the Ekstraklasa. Jan Kamishik finishing with... He scored 20 goals more than the 2nd place guy. That is ridiculous. That is utterly ridiculous. Who wants him? It's going to be someone good, right? It's a couple of teams in Saudi Arabia. It's not even like an amazing team. So then looking at the players, let's take a better look into Jan Kamishik then. So 37 league goals, 44 in all competitions, just the 3 assists. He does not set anyone else up. He just loves to score goals himself. He's an absolute unit, isn't he? 6'5", jumping reach of 17. He can't header though. Imagine if this guy could header. He'd be scoring loads of goals, wouldn't he? I mean, he is scoring loads of goals, but he'd be scoring more goals. Piotr Jasinski on the right-hand side after his 2nd successive season. He's starting to get better. He's slowly getting better, isn't he? He's still wanted. Is he still wanted by the big boys? He's wanted by Bayern and Napoli, so he is still wanted by some of the big boys in Europe. He's getting better. I kind of want to stick him around for another season just to see how much better he does get. He has got 14 goals and 9 assists, which I believe is much better than last season. It's not much better. Okay, it is more goals. He scored 4 more goals than last season, but he's got less assists than last season. Zach in defensive midfield is getting ridiculous. He's getting really, really good. He's still improving. Mentally very good, technically very good, physically very good. 7 goals, 4 assists in all competitions. He's wanted by PSG and everyone in Saudi Arabia are after him. Feel like Zach might be leaving sooner rather than later, but this is still not as good as he gets, and he's still not in the Poland squad. Looking at the 2 new players there, Marcel Andrusko, first up, 19 years old right back, who, I mean, he's done alright. 13 assists, he's got a goal as well in the Ekstraklasa. He's not amazing. I feel like this one might have been a wasted pick in right back. And the other one is Tomasz Matejczuk, who hasn't had a particularly amazing standout year or anything, but he's improving as a footballer, which is good. Has got 1 assist. He should have scored a goal and should have got nearly 2 assists throughout his entire season, but he's a centre-back. I'm not expecting him to be scoring goals and doing stuff like that. I'm going to stick with Matejczuk for another season because obviously I think there's something good there. The coaches think there's something good there. We're going to stick with Tomasz Matejczuk. We are going to now have a look. Who's got the most assists? Not a lot. Baniak is there in 2nd. Andrusko's actually top assists. Baniak has got 12 assists in his return to the club. We've got Brozowski, who gets 11 assists and 11 goals. I feel like you've been playing left wing on a lot. You've been playing on left wing a lot. Has Much been injured or something? I mean, Much is obviously here. He's still at the club. He has missed a bit of football. Okay, and he's been playing in the middle. Which means, I guess, okay, hear me out. It's not a terrible thing that Goralski's too old. It's not a terrible thing that Much is too old, because now these two can kind of rotate. So if Goralski's tired, Much can move into the middle, and then we can have Brozowski move on to the left-hand side and all sorts of things like that. So actually, it's quite good that they're too old to be locked in. The amount of straws I was clutching at there to try and get some form of understanding. Krzysztof Mucha has scored 12 goals, 7 assists in all competitions, playing, as we know, on the left-hand side and in the middle. So at now 24, he's still a very good footballer. Jasinski, we've seen Goralski, 15 goals, 9 assists. I imagine you've been playing, you have been only playing in the middle because you can't play any other positions by the looks of it. Feel like we missed a trick with Goralski. We probably should have looked at retraining him to be like a right winger as well. as an attacking midfielder, so when we stop locking him in, he can actually kind of utilise himself on the right-hand side or whatever, but too little too late anyway. Wolski, who I wasn't expecting to get a lot of football, didn't get much football in the end. 15 starts, 23 additional games off the bench, so he did lose out a little bit. We've got who else has made a fair amount of appearances. Matus has played 16 off the bench, 9 starts. As a striker or an attacking midfielder? Attacking midfielder, okay. Not quite sure why we were doing that, but there we are. Masai Ginter's played twice. Ginter's played 2 matches and conceded 3. In fact, he's conceded 3 and didn't do very well. I imagine he might have come in for injuries. Surely that's the only thing I can think of there. Because we've got Mister, who's played 36, and Salguero's played 8 as well. So maybe Ginter's played a few matches, like I said, just because of injuries. That's fine. You probably noticed, by the way, that I haven't been kind of mentioning anything to do with facilities for the last few seasons. It's because the board literally don't want to talk about it. Every time I go to the club vision and I go to here, they don't want to talk about facilities. And if they do, it is cut back. Everything else, they're okay with. I keep asking them to build a new stadium. Turns out they don't want me to do that, which kind of makes sense because I think the stadium that we're in is relative. Yeah, it's quite new. It's 10 years old. Technically, it's 10 years old. So, yeah, they're not going to do that, obviously. That is going to do it then for Season 9. We've got one more season to go with this Pogon side. And we are only going to be locking in 5 players once again. We are going to have an additional video, which will be 5 seasons into the future as well, where we can have a look to see what players have done what business and how well they've improved going forward. When you think some of these players, like Matajuk, is only 17, I believe, at the moment. By the time we go to that 5 seasons in the future video, he's going to be, 23 years of age. So we are still going to see some young footballers, but hopefully they'll be much, much more improved. And maybe Poland as a national side as well might actually be climbing up the kind of the world rankings, which right now they are definitely not doing.